Hey there everybody, DC from the DC Life channel here. This is a very special video pertaining to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe series because we're moving into volumes 4 and 5. And why is it so special? Because volume 5 is the only copy that I owned when I was growing up. So this is completely nostalgic for me, and it is so cool that I presently own all 10 volumes to relive some of the most nerdy moments in my life when I was younger. So I will be moving back and forth between volumes 4 and 5 to move this Marvel Handbook series along on the DC Live channel. So let's get on to the video. So let's start with volume 4 and the character that's smack dab in the middle of the cover. No, I'm not talking about Mr. Fantastic. I'm talking about Marvel Girl. And what exactly is the problem with the name Marvel Girl? Why do we just call Jean Grey nowadays? Well, she's the Phoenix now, but let's move on. Some people have shared that it's a lame superhero name. But how is Captain Marvel or Mr. Fantastic any different? Can you please let me know what your thoughts are on the name Marvel Girl in the comment section down below. Now back to my most favorite Marvel character. Well,
no!
It's really Jean Grey Phoenix, but we'll connect it all. I love the X Factor designs of the OG X-Men team's costumes, though I prefer Jean's red or orange designs a little better. So Jean Grey is one of the few Omega-level mutants along with Professor X, Storm, Magneto, and even Iceman. Jean possesses the psychic abilities of telepathy and telekinesis. Her powers first surfaced during a car accident when her best friend was dying. Jean Grey actually felt her friend's passing because of her telepathy, and it traumatized her. Professor X discovered Jean and helped her suppress her telepathic powers so she can heal from the incident. Jean very soon joined Professor X's School of the Gifted, where she met the rest of the OG team. And it was there that she honed in her telekinetic powers and eventually healed enough to be able to start using her telepathic powers in later years. Right at the moment of this Marvel Handbook in the middle of the 80s, and when she was part of the OG X Factor team, Jean lost her telepathic powers due to the Phoenix situation, and we'll get to the Phoenix a little bit. So what people might not know is that Jean can lift up to 10 tons with her telekinetic powers, and that is the same strength level as Spider-Man. So not only is she considered a powerhouse, but she can actually perform intricate feats like folding origami to lifting a car. So now to the Phoenix. It was through this handbook, volume 5, that I learned that the Phoenix Jean Grey wasn't actually Jean Grey herself. And for the longest time, until that was revealed, Jean was actually in a protective cocoon under the Avengers Mansion. Most of us thought that Jean had perished as the Phoenix in the Phoenix Saga of the X-Men comics. So I had no idea until this handbook that the Phoenix was copying Jean Grey to a T, that she possessed Jean's moral compass and fought herself as she was slowly getting corrupted by her own darker side. I felt so in the know when I first discovered this. Now, I'm very aware that things have changed since this handbook. Jean is actually so powerful now that she can actually tap into the Phoenix Force. Essentially, Phoenix and Jean Grey are one now. Now, I very quickly want to move on to my other big favorite Marvel character, and that is Rachel Summers' Phoenix. It is hugely because of Alan Davis's redesign of Rachel in the Excalibur comic book series. I just love the clever combination of her hound facial tattoos and costume, and the awesome fiery manifestation of the Phoenix Force whenever Rachel employs her psychic powers. It's literally the coolest thing I've ever seen. She just seems so powerful. And I love that Davis puts her right in the middle of the first cover of Excalibur, elevating her to great importance. It was to my disappointment realizing that she was only able to lift up to 75 tons with her telekinesis. So what I've also learned from this handbook, as she is from a different universe where she was kidnapped by mutant haters who attacked the X-Mansion and killed most of the X-Men. She was raised to be a hound, as she had the unique ability of mutant detection, where she can basically tell if someone is a mutant or not. She was essentially raised to hunt for mutants, for mutant haters in her universe. She eventually broke off the brainwashing with the help of Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat, and was able to bring her back to the present time of the universe of the X-Men in the comics. It was such a confusing yet interesting story to tell. So much drama and so many possibilities of great stories to tell. I love, love, love Rachel Summers. Again, such a rich and tormented character, and I cannot believe that she has been rendered irrelevant today in the X-Men comic book world. Are you enjoying the official handbook of the Marvel Universe? And in this video, volumes 4 and 5. Do you love Jean Grey, the Phoenix, as much as I do? The Phoenix Saga is one of the most celebrated X-Men stories ever, and I'm so glad I get to talk about how cool she really is. What about her old superhero name, Marvel Girl? Do you think it was necessary that Marvel resorted to just calling her Jean Grey? I've honestly never been a fan of superheroes calling themselves just by their actual names. What about Rachel Summers? Isn't her costume in the Excalibur run the best? Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell icon to be notified of more great content. And if you're interested, I also have videos of the Marvel Handbooks volumes 1 through 3, and you can check them out here or through the links in the description below. All right, let's get back to the video. Now, how could you talk about Volume 4 and not bring up Magneto, the OG X-Men villain? I remember watching an episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends and noticing how mustache twirling he was. His origins was beautifully captured by the first X-Men and the First Class movies. Having Ian McKellen play him was initially a surprise casting to me, as I've always known Magneto as a tall and buff dude in the comics. Sir Ian McKellen, of course, knocked it out of the park and brought a regal yet complex perspective of Magneto that is still celebrated to this day. And Michael Fassbender did a great job as Magneto as well. So back to the handbook. It is so cool that Magneto also fathered two very popular mutants, the Scarlet Witch and the Quicksilver. It is also very interesting that the two of them were part of his team of the Brotherhood, or the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, without Magneto knowing that they were actually his own children. There is so much drama and complexity to Magneto. His very sad upbringing informed his outlook on the struggle of humankind and mutants, but we eventually even get to see Magneto trying to reconnect with his children. And it was so fascinating that Professor X and he were actually best friends, which led to really complex storytelling. And at this point of the handbook, Magneto, in one of his fights with the X-Men, really injured Shadowcat, a young fellow mutant whom he's sworn to protect. And that woke him up from his hatred towards mankind and began his reconsideration or repentance. It led to the point where he was willing to surrender himself to be tried in court, but that trial was unfortunately interrupted by attacks of the Strucker twins, which led to Professor X being seriously injured and had to be shipped away to the Shi'ar Empire for healing. It is also at this time when Professor X asked Magneto to take care of his X-Men and began a whole new direction of storytelling for this character, with him being the leader of his enemies, the X-Men. He absolutely is more than a wannabe, just a villainous, hungry ruler of the world. So many handbooks and so little time. So let's jump straight to the featured character of Volume 5, the Nightcrawler. It is so cool for Nightcrawler to have one of the best opening scenes of any comic book in X2. If you haven't seen what I'm talking about, I will have a link to the X2 movie in the description below for your convenience. But you have got to celebrate with me what is absolutely the coolest opening scene of any movie. At the point of this handbook, the revelation of who Kurt Wagner, the Nightcrawler's mother, hasn't been discovered yet. Now, we all know it's actually Mystique, a shape-shifting mutant. It is interesting from time to time to note that there are mutants who would be born with overt physical features that would lead to discrimination from humankind. Most of the mutants in the Marvel Universe are actually really idealized, good-looking people like Jean Grey or the Summers brothers, or
no problem, sugar.
Cooler-than-life Gambit, or a bodybuilder like Colossus, or the goddess that is Storm. The Nightcrawler was born with blue fur and a pointy tail, resembling the caricature of a demon. And what is so interesting is that Kurt is actually a staunch Catholic. There is a great episode of the X-Men cartoon in the 90s featuring Nightcrawler, and his faith was actually really well portrayed, and how his love of God would lead to Mystique showing remorse for her selfish ways, and even Wolverine going to church to pray. Again, it is so fascinating, the juxtaposition of Kurt's Catholic faith and his demonic physical appearance, and how his mutant powers of teleportation actually has him passing by limbo, which is essentially kind of like hell in the Marvel Universe, for literally seconds as he reappears in our dimension, if you will. And it's such a clever way of Marvel teaching young people who read comics to not judge a book by its cover or discriminate against people who look different. The many honorable mentions in both volumes 4 and 5, we have Mr. Fantastic, whom we get to see in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie from the MCU in 2025. The Kingpin is the featured villain of the Daredevil Born Again series on Disney+, really well acted by Vincent D'Onofrio. This is also how the Claw looks like, completely different from Mr. Andy Serkis Gollum himself. We've got the Kree, and I wish the Marvel's movies portrayed the Supreme Intelligence a little better. Of course, there's Mar-Vell, whom Carol Danvers is a derivative of. There is Legion, Professor X's son, who also had a somewhat successful TV show. Loki is also in Volume 4, a really cool X-Men related character, the Long Shot. Magic from the New Mutants, who looked so cool in the New Mutants movie, and I really hope that the MCU will do a better job at portraying them in the future. We have the Mandarin, who doesn't look like Tony Leung. Mantis from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Medusa, whom I love from the Inhumans. Mockingbird, Hawkeye's wife, a totally unused character in the MCU. Moondragon, a really powerful character from the Defenders comics in the 80s. Moon Knight is also here. Moonstone, who is a really cool OG character of the Thunderbolts, which has a movie out in 2025, who will not be featured in that movie, by the way. Totally wasted opportunity, in my opinion. Morbius! It's morbing time! Nightcrawler's mother is also here. Namorita, or Namorita, who is Namor or Namor's cousin, who is featured in the second Black Panther movie, Wakanda Forever, who is not as cool as she is in the comics, and is also a founding member of the New Warriors that Firestar is part of. Nimrod, the ultimate Sentinel, who was featured in the Days of Future Past X-Men movie. He's basically a Sentinel that the X-Men are fearful of because he has the ability to adapt to their mutant abilities. Odin is also here. The Olympian gods, who were featured in this very awesome run of the Avengers that I loved reading growing up. Polaris, Magneto's other daughter, who was featured in a very short run series called The Gifted. Luke Cage, the Power Man, a very cool character from the 70s. And of course, Professor X, one of the most powerful mutants in the Marvel Universe, who has 5 pages on him. Psycho Man, who has the power that caused the Invisible Woman to become Malice with all the rage of the Marvel Rivals game. And I'll stop with the Punisher, who is one of the coolest vigilantes in the Marvel Universe. Well, that's a whole lot of characters that I loved reading in the comics growing up, all compiled in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. What do you think of volumes 4 and 5? Do you think that Magneto is such a complex, well-written and developed character? How about the Nightcrawler? Do you agree with me that his opening scene in X2 is one of the best ever? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and ring the bell icon for notifications of more great videos coming your way. We're halfway through the 10 volumes of the Marvel Handbook. Please join me in future videos of them, but until then, remember, life's too short, live it fully. This is DC from the DC Live channel signing out, and I will see you soon.